Hey everyone, it's Sabrina. Welcome back to my channel. So I'm going to do a me album update, which I haven't done in a while, and we are starting on April. So if you guys remember, I love putting together my me album. I actually did an in-depth series last fall about how to break down your me documenting and me stories into little categories. And I have a whole series on that, so you could check it out. And then I decided, with some feedback from you guys, that I would do a kind of walk you through how I build the whole album throughout the year. So we've done January through March, and now we're working on April. I'm starting off with a selfie I took when I got my hair, because I love taking selfies when I get my hair. It looks so nice. And I'm using some Studio Calico stamps along with that 4 for an acetate as my monthly marker. And then I found an old journaling card that says, "Owning your story is the bravest thing you will ever do." And I'm going to go with pinks and orange, and I think it's going to look really good. And the stamp sets that I will use is vintage tags. I thought I would just stamp some shapes and kind of add some movement to the page, and also have that extra dimension and kind of bring the page more to life. So to hold down the number 4, I get my tiny attacher because I don't have any red line tape, and then I will grab the stamps and begin stamping my different shapes in orange and pink. And they're kind of half tags almost, so they almost, to me, lend themselves to being tucked in, which I love. So you can tuck them in and kind of create that layered look. So I stamped the tags in 2 different colors, the orange and the pink, like I was talking about. I love how bright this color scheme is together, and it works really well with the journaling card that I picked. And so I'm just going to cut out these tags and then layer them on the left-hand side of my journaling card and also up above where my selfie is. I also take a phrase and stamp, "This is what truly matters," above the journaling card. And that stamped phrase, I believe, is from a subscription stamp set. So I can't figure out what the name of the stamp set is, so I apologize for that. And I'm also going to stamp kind of a title sentiment above my selfie as well. And I will do that in a little bit. I love how the vintage tags has like the subtle grid pattern on one of the shapes. And then there's also a solid. And then there's another grid one that has an arrow. And it just has lots of great little pieces to it. I'm actually going to do a second project with the tag stamp set, mainly the tag stamp set, a little later on in this video. This video covers 3 projects. I was trying to keep my video under 20 minutes, so that's why I just stuck to 3 projects. But at the very end of my video, I'm going to show you all the projects in my me album, plus the other pages that are already done in my me album, and you can see how it's coming along. So I took the grid stamp with the arrow and tucked that up at the top, and then also a pink one as well. And I tried to stagger them, make it look layered. I don't know, I thought it looked really fun with the different tags layered beneath it. And I wish that I had tried to like cover up the door behind my head or something, because I feel like the door is peekabooing above my head. So that's why the Loving Me works really well, to kind of cover that up and distract you from the open door. I don't know, sometimes when you print the photos, you notice these subtle little things. You're like, I wish I could have taken that out of the photo. Okay, the one thing I did do was I used the Alice alphabet to stamp some flowers, but to me they really look like bugs. I don't know. They did not look good in black. It really took away from my layout, so I thought about it, and then I was like, nope, I'm changing it. So I stamped pink and orange, and I'm going to cut those out and then glue them on top of my page. You know me, normally it's like, it's a mistake, let's just stick with it and move on. But this time it was really bothering me. And especially since I felt like with this particular stamp, it can easily look mushed unless you are close up and can see that it's a flower. So I felt like it was important to be a different color because black smushed, I don't know why, but it just looked like a bug. So in this one exception, I changed the color of my flowers and I like it so much better. And now I can have the opening page for my April section and put it into my binder. My binder is getting so full. I think I'll be able to get through June and then I'll need a second album, which is fantastic. 2 albums per year, I can take that. So the next project is definitely a hybrid scrapbooking project, which means I took a digital scrapbooking kit from Michelle, Quirky Heart Designs. I downloaded it, opened it up in Photoshop, and then I was able to use it as I wanted to. So I made a template for myself with some hiking photos. I love the photo my husband took of me on the hike, and it had a lot of negative space on the left-hand side, so I knew I could have it cover both sides of the page. So I think it's 5x7, if not a little bit bigger. And then I took the other photos and I started with a 2x2 size and then just shrunk it down to the size that would work. And I put one of the 3x4 journaling cards in a 2x2 shape, so it says spring vibes, and I just shrunk it down so that way it could fit. And to make it easier for myself when I'm lining things up, I just printed it as like one big strip. So you saw me put that on at the beginning. Now the striped strip, I think that is also from a 4x6 journaling card, but I love using the striped papers in any type of printable kit for, consistency between the 2 pages, tying the pages together, and also using all the colors in the kit. Now, I printed 2 strips because I knew that I would need 2 strips, but somehow, and I have no idea how, one of the strips wound up smaller. So that's why I'm having to do a lot of finagling and fixing. The first strip that I laid down to kind of change the width of it, I think that's the word I'm looking for. So I just rip it up and kind of scoot it down and then trim it. That way they could be the same size. I also did something really fun with a 4x6 journaling card. Michelle has these 4x6 cards that have the monthly name on them, and I took mine in Photoshop and I kind of cut out the word April so that way I could use just that word, and I'm going to use that as my title piece. And what I did is I printed it on sticker paper. You're going to see that in just a second. I took another 3x4 card, shrunk it down to 2x2, and then pop dotted it. And I was able to put it in that negative space, which looks fantastic. So you can see here is the clear sticker sheet that I printed. Normally when I have these type of flowers, I would usually die cut them to make them a little bit more dimensional. But I decided to try something different. Printed them on clear sticker paper, and then I'm just going to layer them on the bottom right of my photo and a little bit up at the top where that pop dotted card is. So I took the April, peeled it off, put it on some some white paper, the HP paper that I always use. I put it on that, and then I'm going to go ahead and pop dot it, and around the April and underneath, that's where I will layer in the flowers. Now, if I was to cut these flowers using my Cameo, I would definitely add a white stroke behind the flowers, so that way my Cameo is not cutting each individual piece of the flower, because you can see these flowers are kind of complex and it almost looks like a watercolor type flower, and so there's a lot of intricate pieces for each of the flowers. So it'd make much more sense to do a white stroke, and that way when the flower is cut with the Cameo, it cuts in one consistent piece. So I'm going to cut out my April and then add some pop dots, and I just love how that turned out. It's so fun. I was so glad when I was able to cut out the word April and put it on a sticker paper so that way I could have a title. And again, I could have cut the April out with my cameo as well and also used a white stroke. It's just I wanted to try something different with this project. Even the whole entire layout of my photos, that was a new design for me. I'm always trying to come up with new designs for this particular size. It's half binder size, so 5.5 by 8.5, and it's always fun to come up with this new design because I can figure out other ways to use it, because it has one big photo but then a few other little ones, so I love that. And I'm just cutting the different flower shapes again to frame around the April. I'm going to add a little bit. I was going to say I didn't add journaling, but I remembered that I did. I added a little bit. And you know, I have done in the past where I've done journal lines on both pages and then you kind of read across both pages for the journaling, but I really don't like that. I don't know. I wonder how you guys feel about that, but I feel like it looks weird if it's, you know, cut across 2 pages, the journaling. So just having it on one side works well for me. So I put a bunch of stickers up at the top and it kind of goes really well with the trees in the background for the top photo, and I love it. So I said that we kicked off April with a hike. I took a half day from work so that way we could go celebrate not only April, but my husband's birthday. And there were so many different plants that were in bloom, which makes me so happy. The weather was perfect. It wasn't too hot, even though, you know, it was spring. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful day because that's exactly what my husband wanted to do for his birthday, which was to go hiking. So I am done with this project, and I hope you guys have enjoyed seeing how I've used a printable kit in various ways with, you know, and with the cutting out of the journaling cards and the stickers and changing the size of my journaling cards. So much fun. Any questions? Just let me know. All right, last project. I went on a walk with my friend and it was spring. It was April, but it was so cold. You can see we're wearing our winter jackets and beanies. So it was kind of stumping me how I was going to bring this page together. And I finally settled on doing tags down the side with this vintage tag stamp set. And I took a journaling card and I cut it so that way all I have is "It's a good day to have a good day." And I also use this black pattern card, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp some of the tag shapes on the back, and then I'm going to use one of the tags on kind of the thicker white bottom part of the journaling card. That way I can stamp a sentiment there. So what I'm going to do is just a column of stamping and tags right down the left hand side, and it's going to look fantastic, and it's going to be red and black to match the clothes that we have. Again, you know, it was when I think of months, I don't think of red in April, so it was hard for me to work with, and I know I've mentioned that before, but I love how this turned out. It was so fun. So I'm stamping several different shapes, and one of the ones that I really enjoyed using was the solid tag shape. I stamped it in red, and that one worked really nicely to stamp a sentiment right on top. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these shapes, I've stamped them, and now I'm going to cut them out and kind of figure out how I want to place them going down the left-hand side. I also have that subscription stamp set that I'm going to add a few sentiments from there, and it's going to be fun. It's going to have lots of movement to it, and I was really excited to come up with that idea for using the journaling card because I have a ton of journaling cards from Studio Calico that I've never used, but now they can get a new life and a new purpose. So this one is going to be a nice thick cardstock type tag, and I will add a sentiment to it. That's the one that has 2 brad spots. That's what I want to think. It looks like a nameplate, the one that has the 2 holes on the left and the right. I think of it as like a nameplate, but I don't know if it has a specific name to it. I'd love to know if you guys know. So I cut out my 2 other stamped shapes on the black pattern card. I went to trim the It's a Good Day card, and now I can start building my little column. So I start off with a red tag that has like that subtle, or not subtle, it has that grid, and I'm going to put that right on top. I also want to add a sentiment that says so much to smile about. So I'm going to place that. And I'm placing everything first. I've mentioned this before. I want to make sure that I like the design and then I can place it. I'd rather do it that way. So I have the patterned tag. I turned that sideways, and then the solid one. So I like how that looks. Now I'm going to go back down to the bottom, use the cardstock journaling card phrase. And then the bottom left corner was really kind of tricky because honestly, I wanted to turn the black pattern card. I wanted to turn it horizontal instead of vertical. And same thing with the grid. I wanted to switch the red grid tag, but it left a really kind of awkward space in the bottom left-hand corner. So I stamped another solid tag shape, and I'm going to fill in that left bottom spot with that solid shape. It still didn't look like the best, if I'm being honest, but it worked. I made it work. And overall, I love my use of the stamps. So I adhered down the photo, I adhered down the journaling card, and now I'm starting to build my column. And I also like to prep my stamps by rubbing them on my hand. I don't know who taught me that, but somebody taught me that, and I started doing it a long, long time ago. So much to smile about. I stamped that. There's also a really fun shape in that subscription stamp set that's like almost like a flower. So I add that and scatter it around as I'm building my column, so that way it adds a little bit of movement to my page. Added the pattern black tag up at the top, and then my solid red shape, and I stamped enjoying this a lot. And see how awesome that looks? It just really pops off of the red, and I love that. So I'll add that in along with 2 of the stamped little shapes. To me, they look like flowers. I don't know what they look like, but they look fantastic. And they are the perfect type of stamp that I love using over and over again. I've talked about it many times, but it's the type of stamp I would call a scatter stamp. Like, it has just a little pattern and you can add it to your page to like scatter around. So if you have a stamp that has like 5 dots, it would be a scatter of dots. Or if you have a stamp that has little tiny stars, like a cluster of stars, that would be a scatter stamp. And I love those for sprinkling on your page, helping your eye to travel around the page. On the thick cardstock tag, I stamped snippets of life captured. I also stamped love this, wonderful, or full of wonder and delight. And then this is where the bottom left corner, I had a little bit of trickiness trying to figure out how I was going to fill in that last bottom corner. So I stamped time well spent and then just tucked it underneath the other 2 larger tags. And overall, I think it works pretty well. And then the last little step is going to be just adding a few journaling lines. You can see I was kind of playing around with whether or not I was going to turn that black pattern one horizontal or vertical, but again, I wound up with just horizontal. And prepping the next stamp, which is the love this. And again, I wish they would share, the Studio Calico would share the subscription stamp sets, after like 6 months or something like that, because this stamp set is really fantastic. Lots of wonderful sentiments that are so versatile and are going to be so perfect for a lot of different uses. Okay, adding in just a few lines of journaling because I just wanted to add the date and what I was doing, which was just a wonderful walk, enjoying the crisp spring air and catching up with my best friend and just discussing all the different things and all the different topics. So that'll wrap up that page. And then I'll put it into my album, and then of course I will show you guys how April is looking in my album. April was such a huge section in It just was huge. I have a few more pages to do and then I'll be finished. So I start off with, of course, the 2 pages you saw. Then I have a making page plus a grit page that I'm working on, the tag page, and then I have one with my husband, a week in the life page, and then I'll wrap up April. So lots going on in April. I hope you've enjoyed seeing these projects come together. I would love a thumbs up or a subscribe if you are new to my channel. Have a great day. Bye.